My boyfriend insisted on diving into the labyrinthine underwater cave to retrieve her childhood friend's brother's body at her request. Unable to dissuade him and fearing an accident, I had no choice but to accompany him on the dive. After locating the body, we got lost during our ascent. Despite knowing the corpse would drastically deplete our oxygen, he refused to abandon it, terrified of disappointing his childhood sweetheart. In the end, he snatched my spare oxygen tank and safely surfaced with the body, while I died of pulmonary barotrauma underwater, my corpse drifting endlessly in the frigid cave darkness, never to see sunlight again. When I opened my eyes again, my boyfriend and I were just about to enter the cave during our dive. 1. Trapped in the abyssal darkness, oxygen deprivation completely robbed me of my sanity. The icy water rushed violently into my lungs. I heard the sickening crack of my ribs as freezing water flooded my chest. Consciousness began slipping away. Suddenly, my entire body convulsed like an electric shock. I thought it was just my body's final reactions before death. When I opened my eyes again, I was shocked to find myself biting on a breathing tube. Fresh oxygen flowed smoothly into my lungs, and right in front of me, kicking with green flippers, was my boyfriend Suhayu. This was precisely when we just reached the entrance of the underwater cave at Luoxian Lake's 17-meter deep bottom. Just like in our previous life, he paused at the cave mouth and frantically gestured at me. His meaning was clear. He wanted me to squeeze through the narrow, single-file passage first. I had far more diving experience than him, plus my smaller frame gave me an advantage. It made sense for me to enter the cave first between us dive partners, yet in our past life, he chose to bring a corpse ashore, leaving me, a living soul, abandoned in the endless dark depths, all because his childhood sweetheart Gu Linlin begged him through tears to recover her brother's remains. At this thought, a chill ran down my spine. Without hesitation, I turned around and kicked hard with my flippers. I swam straight for the surface without looking back. 2. Ascending too quickly from deep dives can easily cause decompression sickness, leading to severe physical harm. I knew Suhayu was right behind me, swimming toward the surface too. It felt like some abyssal demon was hunting me down. The slightest hesitation would let him drag me into endless darkness. I abandoned proper decompression and shot upward like my life depended on it. Gu Linlin stood anxiously on the shore, craning her neck in anticipation. But when she saw it was me who surfaced, her face twisted in displeasure. Where's my brother and how you? Her tone suggested she'd never expected me to make it back alive. I hauled myself ashore, tore off my dive mask, and gulped down the fresh air I'd been craving, but inadequate decompression left my joints screaming in agony. I could only collapse weakly onto the ground, waiting for the pain to gradually subside. Gu Linlin stood nearby, clearly witnessing my distress. They actually kicked my limp body toward the water's edge with their foot. Hey, I'm talking to you, Xinyang. How dare you come up alone when you promised to bring my brother back? Useless trash. Where's Haoyu? Is he in danger? How can you just lie there? Get your ass back down there and save him. I watched her self-righteous attitude with utter disgust. I can't believe someone could be this shameless. 3. Gu Linlin's younger brother Gu Yingtian died while exploring underwater caves in Luoxian Lake. Gu Yingtian developed an interest in diving during his post-graduation trip. Gu Linlin then asked Suhayu to help him join our club. Fresh from his first few open-water dives, he was brimming with youthful confidence, already itching recklessly to try cave diving. As a seasoned diver, I gave him a stern warning. Cave diving operates on an entirely different danger level compared to open-water diving. At his current skill level, he doesn't even qualify for cave diving certification. What's more, the cave system in Luoxian Lake is extremely complex, like navigating a massive labyrinth. Under no circumstances should he risk breaking regulations by attempting unauthorized cave diving, yet he wore a dismissive smirk, brimming with overconfidence. Ever since childhood, I've learned everything faster than others. What I grasp in 1 hour of diving would take you folks over 10 times as long. Spare me your mediocre standards. Don't measure a genius like me by ordinary people's learning pace. Suhayu chimed in to counter me. You're being overly dramatic. Yingtian's shown exceptional aquatic instincts during these dives. A brief cave exploration poses no real danger. In the end, Gu Yingtian decided to sneak into the cave alone. He even boasted with absolute certainty that he'd break my depth record at Luoxian Lake Cave. Without proper cave diving certification, no one dared to be his dive buddy against regulations. Unbelievably, he went diving solo at dawn without telling anyone. The equipment, diving conditions, and buddy system all failed to meet standards. Everything led to a tragedy that could have been prevented. The loss of young lives is truly heartbreaking. Even worse, he disappeared into some remote corner of the cave. The rescue team made multiple dives but failed to locate the body, nearly encountering danger themselves. They ultimately had to abandon the recovery operation. Gu Linlin harbored deep resentment toward me because of this. I was actually the one who tried hardest to stop Guing Tian from that reckless cave dive. 4. Exhausted, I could only watch helplessly as Gu Linlin kicked me toward the water's edge. Su Haoyu finally completed his decompression and surfaced. Gu Linlin's face lit up at the sight of Su Haoyu. She dashed over and grabbed his hand to pull him ashore. Finally stopped kicking me relentlessly. Su Haoyu removed his diving mask, guilt written all over his face as he faced Gu Linlin. Linlin, I'm sorry. We still haven't made it into the cave. Gu Linlin's previously pushy and impatient demeanor toward me completely shifted. Oh my god, Haoyu. I was so scared. Thank goodness you're alright. I know how dangerous and complicated it is down there. Just the fact that you dive in means everything to me. To be honest, I never really dared to hope. Her eyes glistened with tears, voice trembling with emotion. 5. Su Haoyu panicked the moment he saw Gu Linlin's tears. No, Linlin. Don't worry, it's Xinyan who's holding me back. She just needs a quick adjustment, and we'll be ready to go back down. With that, he turned his cold gaze toward me lying on the ground and ordered sharply, Xinyan, take 10 minutes to regroup. Sound good? We dive in 10 sharp. I was utterly speechless. Thankfully, my physical condition had stabilized somewhat. I hauled myself up and started stripping off the diving gear. No, you'll have to go down alone. I've got urgent matters to attend to at home. But Gu Linlin grabbed my arm abruptly. Hey, who said you could leave? How could you possibly let Haoyu go down there alone when it's so dangerous? I curled my lips sarcastically. Oh, so it's dangerous for you Haoyu to go down, but perfectly safe for me. Am I not human? Though slightly embarrassed, Su Haoyu turned to comfort Gu Linlin gently. Linlin, Xinyan might really have something urgent to handle. How about we wait till she's back before going down as soon as possible, okay? No way, no matter how important her business is, how could it possibly compare to my brother? Xinyan, if you hadn't killed my brother, he wouldn't be drifting alone in that freezing water. Denied a proper burial, I ignored her and turned to leave. She actually grabbed my arms with both hands and tried dragging me into the water. No matter how urgent your business is today, you're not going anywhere. You'll bring my brother here and kowtow to apologize. She probably forgot. I trained intensively every day for diving, strong as an ox, while she was just a delicate, pitiable little flower. I gritted my teeth and threw a sharp backward elbow strike. She didn't even have a chance to struggle. Like a kite with its string cut, she plummeted toward the water's surface. After flailing briefly in the water, Su Haoyu swiftly rescued her and pulled her into his arms. Xinyan, what's with this tantrum? Linlin's health is fragile. Are you trying to kill her too? That too was really well placed. Su Haoyu also believes I'm responsible for Guing Tian's death. I told you I have something important to handle, but it doesn't matter anymore. My grandma made pot stickers, waiting for me to come home and eat. You two go have your fun, leave me out of it. I walked out without looking back. 6. Su Haoyu sternly lectured me from behind. Going back for pot stickers? Xinyan, how irresponsible can you be? We haven't even recovered Ying Tian yet. And you're thinking about dinner. Since when is that a priority? Get back here right now, suit up and get in the water with me, or I'll call everyone immediately and cancel next month's wedding. Gu Linlin finally stopped coughing from the inhaled water, her indignation boiling over. Brother Haoyu, don't humiliate yourself begging this vile woman for my sake. You're a full-grown man standing 6 feet 1 inch tall. How could you possibly lose to some woman in diving? That's ridiculous. Worst case, you go down alone, you'd still manage to bring my brother up. Haoyu Su retained a shred of reason. Linlin, you're certified. You know diving solo violates safety protocols. Don't worry, let me find another dive buddy to go down with me. I promise we'll bring Ying Tian back. You're right, Su Haoyu just reminded me. Gu Linlin even got her diving certification just to impress Su Haoyu. I turned around with a chilling smirk. Su Haoyu, Miss Gu already has her diving certification. Why bother looking for another dive buddy? Just go down together. Miss Gu, you and Su Haoyu grew up together. Childhood friends with no secrets, perfect partners underwater who can truly rely on each other. That's not a role just anyone can fill. Su Haoyu caught my sarcastic tone and frowned impatiently. Gu Linlin shrank closer into Su Haoyu's arms, her eyes darting nervously. I shrugged dismissively and walked away without a second glance. Not to mention that underwater cave was extremely narrow. Su Haoyu's build simply wasn't suited for navigating such tight spaces. let alone considering my extensive experience and technical skills in cave diving. He could chase me for a decade and still never catch my shadow, let alone dragging along Gu Linlin, that rule-breaking amateur. The same fate as Gu Yingtian awaits them. My wedding with Su Haoyu was originally scheduled for next month, 7, during college. My parents died together in a car accident. Devastated, I found solace only by diving into the silent depths. 2 years ago, Su Haoyu joined our diving club. Tall and handsome, he clung to me like an eager puppy, constantly asking about diving techniques. During an open water dive with him as my buddy, my snorkel started leaking. I immediately signaled to Su Haoyu that we needed to surface early. Without hesitation, he shoved his own mouthpiece into my mouth. He held his breath all the way up and nearly ended up in the hospital. This experience cracked open a sliver of light in my closed heart, and I gradually grew accustomed to his company. On our engagement day, I felt nothing but blessed. My future husband shared the same passion as me. Looking back now, it was all just a cruel joke. Ever since Gu Linlin moved back to Haicheng, the two reunited after years apart. Anything concerning me always took a back seat to her matters. Even her brother's corpse mattered far more than the life of his own fiancé. Arriving home just in time, I caught Grandma pulling golden chiban shrimp pot stickers fresh from the pan. 8. Ignoring the heat, I grabbed a pot sticker and shoved it straight into my mouth. Then I hugged Grandma tightly as fat tears rolled down my cheeks. In my final moments, fragmented memories flashed before my eyes. After handling my funeral arrangements, Grandma returned home and sank slowly into her chair at the table, sat motionless all night, staring blankly at that untouched plate of pot stickers. Thank goodness, if heaven hadn't intervened against that despicable couple. I nearly made Grandma suffer the agony of burying her grandchild again. Grandma thought I was missing Mom and Dad again. Just like always, she held me securely and patted my back gently. My dear Yangbao, it's all right now. Grandma's here, nothing to be afraid of. The scent of soap on Grandma finally made me feel truly alive again. I wiped away my tears and kept devouring that plate of steaming pot stickers. After resting post-meal, my joints still ached faintly from decompression sickness. Following hospital tests, I was kept there for several days' observation. During this period, I blocked all contact with Su Haoyu and his family members. From now on, I want nothing to do with him. But on my discharge day, I got a call from a club member, just as expected. Something happened to Su Haoyu and Gu Linlin. I got the gist of what happened from friends at the club. 9. Several people received phone calls afterward. Su Haoyu asked them to join him in retrieving the body from the water. After Gu Yingtian's accident, multiple club members had attempted cave dives searching for him. The cave's intricate structure forced them to abort each attempt empty-handed, with some even facing peril. One of the female teammates barely managed to crawl out, only to get slapped by Gu Linlin the moment she reached shore, who furiously berated her for being useless. That's why nobody wanted to touch this mess with a 10-foot pole this time. But Gu Linlin couldn't care less, tearfully begging Su Haoyu nonstop to take her down together. He'd always been defenseless against Gu Linlin's tearful, clingy antics. Ended up making the most foolish decision. Club surveillance shows Su Haoyu bringing Gu Linlin into the men's locker room yesterday morning. When they re-emerged, both were fully suited up in diving gear. At 12:06 p.m., they submerged into Luoxian Lake. There's been no word from them until noon today. A full 24 hours have passed, way beyond the golden window for drowning rescues. By now, Su Haoyu and Gu Linlin underwater are likely sharing Gu Yingtian's fate, trapped in some crevice of the cave. Their oxygen long depleted, it's completely over. I never wanted anything to do with them again. 10. But as Su Haoyu's fiancé, and the lakeside surveillance caught me arguing with both of them before the incident, so the police called me to the scene for questioning. From a distance, I could see police tape cordoning off the lakeshore. A crowd had gathered there, with occasional bursts of wailing piercing through. The moment I showed up, a sharp-featured, domineering woman charged at me. She viciously raised her hand and swung straight at my face. Luckily, I reacted swiftly, grabbed her wrist, and flung it aside violently. Stumbling awkwardly, she grew even more furious with humiliation. You damned jinx, how dare you dodge? You killed my brother, and now you've taken my sister too. I'll beat you to death today, you bitch-born wretch, or I'm no descendant of the Gu family. It suddenly came back to me, this was Gu Shanshan, the eldest sister of Gu Yingtian and Gu Linlin. I'd seen her when Gu Yingtian had his accident. The officers restrained her physically, but couldn't stop the torrent of vile obscenities spewing from her mouth. Su Haoyu's parents arrived at the scene as well. Su's mother collapsed onto the ground, her entire body trembling with violent sobs. I had your birth chart read long ago. You're destined to bring misfortune to your family. Why else would both your parents have died because of you? I warned how you not to get involved with a jinx like you. But he wouldn't listen. Why wouldn't he listen to me? Gone was the poised, icy demeanor she'd shown when we first met. Back then, she'd looked at the bird's nest, la mer, and Matai I brought with the same disdain one reserves for trash, sneering that only poor country bumpkins would covet such things. So she'd already decided I was husband cursed from the very beginning. Mr. Sue covered his mouth, yapping, don't talk nonsense. How Yu's accident has absolutely nothing to do with Xiao Shen, Mr. Sue was a kind man who had always supported my marriage to Su Haoyu, criticizing Mrs. Sue for her superstitious beliefs. For a moment I thought he'd finally said something sensible, but then he lowered his hoarse voice to comfort his wife. Xiao Shen cared deeply for Haoyu and couldn't bear the thought of him drifting down there. She volunteered to retrieve his remains herself. We shouldn't speak ill of such devotion, understand? Official search and rescue efforts would likely end like last time, failing to locate the body, so the Su family set their sights on me instead. Alarm bells rang in my head as I immediately countered with firm resolve. 11. Uncle Su, don't go making baseless accusations. I never said I'd dive down to retrieve Su Haoyu. Gu Shanshan's eyes widened in furious disbelief. What? You won't retrieve him? You're the one who got him killed. How dare you refuse? What kind of heartless monster are you? You're rotten to the core. I rolled my eyes dismissively. You said it yourself. I'm just a young girl. People keep dying down that cave. Why should I risk my life for them? I'm not going down, period. What are you gonna do? Drag me down there yourself. Unless you've got a death wish too. Mrs. Sue, likely swayed by her husband's advice, began playing good cop alongside him. Xiao Shen, I've heard you're Haishi's top diving expert. You're our only hope to recover Haoyu and Lin's remains. You were almost Haoyu's bride. How could you bear to leave him underwater, letting fish and crabs reduce him to bare bones? Uncle knows you're not that heartless. Right, alright. Xiao Shen, Auntie misspoke earlier. Don't take it to heart. I'm apologizing. Okay, tell you what, if you're afraid of danger, I'll pay for 1,000,000 yuan life insurance policy. If anything happens down there, your family would be set for life with that money. Surely that's acceptable. I laughed bitterly through my rage. Sorry Auntie, I'm worth way more than that. $1,000,000 insurance policy couldn't buy my life. I've spent over $1 million on diving alone. You think I'd care about this chump change? A crowd of curious tourists murmured behind them. With that, I turned and walked away. How heartless can she be? Her own fiancé drowned down there and she won't even lift a finger to retrieve the body. The thing is, her husband was actually doing a good deed, trying to recover another person's body when the accident happened. Such a tragedy. Good people always die young. They say this young man was a top performer at a tech giant, pulling in a huge salary, and was supposed to get married next month. The moment he passed, his fiancée just turned her back on him. What a waste of such a fine young man. Of course things wouldn't die down that easily. 12. A single video suddenly put me in the local trending topics. In the video, I'm sneering with arrogance as I taunt the pitiful elderly couple who lost their beloved son. I've spent over $1 million just on diving equipment. You think I'd care about this chump change? The sensational headline reads, Female diver flaunts wealth after abandoning corpse underwater. Extorting exorbitant body retrieval fees from grieving family. What's the dark truth behind this? Taken out of context and heavily dramatized, it's deliberately designed to outrage clueless bystanders. The video concludes with blood-red text dripping with gory horror effects. Shenyang, where's your conscience? When nightmares haunt you, aren't you afraid they'll return for vengeance? The footage spread like wildfire. Beyond destroying my reputation, it flooded my inbox with vicious hate messages. It rekindled hope for both the Su and Gu families. Numerous elite divers from home and abroad, unaware of the truth, rushed to Luoxian Lake, sympathizing with Su Haoyu whom they believed I had killed. They volunteered to join forces in retrieving the bodies of those innocent victims. Late at night, I even received threatening calls from Gu Shanshan. After the spine-chilling recording of a female ghost's wails finished playing, Gu Shanshan gloated triumphantly. Shenyang, who the hell do you think you are? Even international cave diving legend Georgia is rushing here to rescue Aring Tian and Lin Lin. What use do we have for trash like you? Pa, don't flatter yourself. Georgia truly was a cave diving legend, the top expert in this field. If he shows up, those 3 bodies at the bottom might actually see daylight again. What I really don't get is why some people insist on counting their chickens before they hatch. At exactly 8:30 a.m., I placed a call to the Cultural and Tourism Bureau. Director Zhang, this is Shenyang. There've been too many incidents at Luoxian Lake recently. crowds are gathering demanding to retrieve bodies from the depths. I strongly recommend sealing off the entrance to Luoxian Lake's underground cave system to prevent further serious diving accidents. Haiching's unique karst landscape features numerous uncharted underground caves that attract many adventure-seeking tourists. Through my collaboration with the Cultural Tourism Bureau, I've repeatedly assisted in safety assessments of these caves, eliminating diving hazards across multiple scenic areas. Director Zhang took my recommendations very seriously. For public safety concerns, they promptly accepted my proposal. Workers were dispatched to completely seal the underwater cave entrance at Luoxian Lake with reinforced steel bars. A public notice was issued prohibiting all unauthorized personnel from entering the cave. Except for government-approved individuals, now no one, not even the most skilled adventurer, could enter this deadly cave that swallows all who enter. The false rumors online continue to escalate. 13. My personal information has been recklessly spread by unidentified internet trolls. Someone swore I used to be an escort, claiming they booked me overnight for a whole month 4 years ago, praising my skills at pleasing men. Later I supposedly reformed by attaching myself to Su Haoyu. A tech elite, purely for his money. Gu Linlin and Su Haoyu were once a loving couple until I came between them, leading to their heartbreaking breakup. Su Haoyu bankrolled all my diving adventures, yet now he refuses to dive in to rescue anyone and has the audacity to extort 7 million from his parents. Others even dragged Gu Yingtian's tragedy into this, claiming I lured her younger brother into dangerous waters out of jealousy toward Gu Linlin, resulting in his death overnight. I became public enemy number 1, a venomous femme fatale everyone wanted dead. I initially thought this was just some people's impotent rage and didn't want to engage, but then comments started crossing the line. This bitch's parents were reckless drivers who cut off vehicles on the Ring Expressway years ago, ended up crushed under a steamroller like human pancakes. You can still see 2 dark bloodstains baked into the asphalt about 200 to 300 meters past Qingqing Bridge. Check it out if you're passing by. Did a divination reading on this slut. Turns out she was a Unit 731 commander in her past life, tortured countless Chinese to death. That's why all her family members die horribly now. To atone for her sins. Any relatives reading this, run, you're next if you don't. Holy crap, this sounds so mystical but totally makes sense. Everyone quick, forward this to all your group chats. If it can save even one person, it's worth it. Grandma's classmates from her senior university kept forwarding her this message, making her blood pressure spike in frustration. I rushed Grandma to the hospital for a checkup. The girl at the payment counter seemed to recognize me. She slammed my documents on the counter. This form's filled out wrong. I can't process your payment. Do it again. After redoing it, she made me get back in line all over again. For rounds of this nonsense later, she finally processed my payment with angry clattering. Muttering under her breath, who knows if this form's contaminated with Unit 731's filth. Disgusting. I pressed my throbbing temples, barely containing my anger. 14. After settling Grandma in, I spent the entire night compiling all the evidence. The next morning, I systematically posted well-structured rebuttals to all the slander against me on social media. First, after graduating college, I worked at my father's friend's company for 2 years. Back then, I threw myself into work to numb the grief of losing my loved ones, often burning the midnight oil. I even posted my daily 9 to midnight clock-in records from the company system. The timeline of me allegedly working nights that netizens claimed doesn't add up at all. Secondly, my parents died swerving to avoid a boy who suddenly darted into the road on Welcome Avenue in the suburbs. The police records from that day and the final investigation report documented everything crystal clear. Contrary to online rumors, it wasn't a case of reckless overtaking leading to being crushed by a road roller. As the bombshell finale, I released surveillance footage from Su Haoyu's and my marital home, originally installed to prevent contractors from cutting corners. It seemed trivial, so I never mentioned it to Su Haoyu. The camera caught Su Haoyu reluctantly seeing me off, only to bring Gu Linlin home the moment I left. There they were in our fully paid marital home, entangled from living room to kitchen in one continuous obscene embrace. After my rebirth, I'd foolishly believed their lingering affection wouldn't escalate to such disgraceful acts. But when I checked the surveillance footage and saw Su Haoyu taking Gu Linlin into the men's locker room to change into diving gear, something suddenly clicked. Beginners do need assistance when putting on complex diving equipment. Though typically they'd ask someone of the same gender or their intimate partner, because when wearing professional wetsuits, people often have just the skimpiest swimwear underneath, not even wearing a stitch. The surveillance footage showed them completely unfazed, without batting an eye. they'd probably seen everything there was to see already. I immediately pulled up the wedding suite surveillance. I never opened it again after the renovation. Sure enough, the records were full of evidence that they'd been cheating on me all along. Disgusting as it was, it turned out to be extremely useful. The moment I released the counter-evidence, the internet erupted. 15, particularly those censored yet still scandalous scenes that assaulted the spectator's eyes. Riding the wave of attention, I gradually revealed several other truths, including the uncut version of my "A Million Means Nothing" video secretly recorded by my shirt pocket phone that day. The true colors of Suhayu's parents and Gu Shanshan were laid bare before the public. My medical records and hospital invoices showing I was hospitalized for decompression sickness several days. These three were once my teammates. Despite past disagreements, I should have approached retrieving their bodies with compassion. But 2 weeks ago during Gu Yingtian's body recovery, I discovered someone had tampered with my oxygen tank shortly after diving. The settings were scrambled, cutting off proper air supply. In the emergency, I had to surface too quickly without proper decompression, leaving me physically compromised and unable to participate in this recovery operation. I deeply regret this situation and sincerely hope for your understanding and compassion. As wave after wave of irrefutable evidence surfaces, this matter no longer requires my attention. A former employee came forward, praising my parents' exceptional character as founders, how they generously loaned money to help staff through tough times. Such kind souls don't deserve these slanderous attacks. Investigators traced numerous bot accounts spreading rumors back to user Shanshan_Gu, whose profile picture showed Gu Yingtian seated prominently in a Gu family portrait. Even Gu Yingtian's long-forgotten alt account posts resurfaced online. Just found out today, some woman holds the diving record at Luoxian Lake Cave. What a joke. Are all the men in our club eating shit? Pathetic losers. Tiny Luoxian Lake, daddy's coming for you. Shenyang only blocks me because she's scared I'll break her record. Think I'm that easy to fool? Today her record gets crushed beneath me. Tomorrow she'll be the one under me begging for mercy. Ha 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 ha. Some people have even claimed with absolute certainty, based on my own words, that Gu Linlin was the one who tampered with my oxygen tank. I didn't kill Gu Linlin and Suhayu, not at all. It was them conspiring to murder me. Some have gone as far as analyzing frame by frame their illicit video, pointing out how the arrangement of my wedding room, deliberately set up by Suhayu, was actually a soul-trapping curse meant to harm me. I've truly witnessed the boundless imagination of netizens, so I don't mind putting it to full use. Just a week ago, there were 3 tragic drowning victims receiving universal sympathy. In the blink of an eye, they became internet vermin everyone loves to hate. Even toddlers were grabbing slippers to viciously smack it repeatedly, while submitting the evidence. I also filed a police report. 16. At the police station, Gu Shanshan kept provoking defiantly. That bitch killed my siblings. What's wrong with ruining her reputation? I did nothing wrong. You cops aren't arresting her but dare to detain me instead. Must have taken her bribes. I'll report you all. This amounts to a tacit admission of guilt, coupled with provocative slander against police officers. Spreading malicious rumors with severe consequences will land her a prison sentence of up to 3 years. Suhayu's parents wouldn't dare show their faces around me again. Grandma's condition isn't serious. She'll be discharged soon. The once rampant rumors gradually died down with time. Everything seemed to return to its former peaceful state. The rebirth now feels like nothing more than an elusive dream, yet when I attempted to dive again, my body trembled uncontrollably upon entering the water, making descent impossible. That's when I realized I had truly died once in those lightless depths. Diving will have to wait. Let time heal the fear buried deep within, yet those soul-crushing memories still haunt me. Something unexpected happened again, that evening. I went out for a morning run and was heading home. On the way back, there was a quiet path with few pedestrians. 17. I called my grandma to ask if she could take the dog out for a walk around the neighborhood. I called but no one answered. The old lady's always glued to Douyin, phone in hand, rarely misses calls. Growing uneasy, I quickened my steps to hurry home. The sound of an approaching car came from behind. The sound approached quietly, then suddenly erupted into screeching brakes. A van cut me off, and several burly men in black jumped out. They effortlessly hoisted me up and tossed me into the vehicle. As I struggled, a needle pierced my left arm, flooding my veins with icy liquid. Before I could even cry for help, I sank into unconsciousness. When I came to, pitch darkness surrounded me. It must have been deep into the night. My hands and feet were tightly bound. 18. Grandma lay beside me with closed eyes, though thankfully her chest rose and fell steadily. The person looking down at me from the adjacent seat wasn't entirely unexpected. It was Suhayu's father. the same kindly, silver-spectacled man who always wore a gentle smile. Now he seemed like a completely different person. He bent down and ripped the tape off my mouth violently, gritting my teeth against the pain. I voiced the question burning in my mind. What do you want? I didn't kill Suhayu. Keeping me tied up won't bring your son back from the dead. His hand shot out suddenly, gripping my jaw with brutal force. The gnarled fingers brushed against my cheek like a venomous water snake, sending chills down my spine. You're quite the pretty little thing. No wonder how you went through hell and high water to choose you as his bride. He's dead, drowned in that icy lake without even a body to bury, yet here you stand, cool as a cucumber. You're no ordinary woman. He suddenly closed the distance until his nose nearly touched mine, exhaling the musty stench of old age. Your future husband, your soulmate destined to share flesh and spirit, the man you vowed to devote your life to, he's drifting lifelessly beneath those waters, rotting into bleached bones. Xinyan, dying for him wouldn't even be excessive, yet you, how dare you utter those heartless words so casually, claiming you couldn't retrieve him. I ought to rip your heart out and see if it's truly black. His suddenly raised voice made me flinch violently, yet he forcibly steadied himself, his mind racing at lightning speed. Grandma's safety comes first. How's my grandma? If anything happens to her, I won't live either. A sinister grin twisted across his face. She's fine, just got a bit too much sedative. But if you don't pull Haoyu out of there, I can't guarantee her safety. He stomped his feet agitatedly, making the floor beneath him sway. The sparse hair on his scalp reflected shimmering light patterns. Right now, we're probably on a boat in the waters of Luoxian Lake Cave. The cave's sealed off now. No professional diver would risk breaking regulations to retrieve remains, so he hired thugs to kidnap me and force me to dive. 19. Then he took my grandmother hostage when he thought I might refuse. That father-son duo surnamed Su are nothing but venomous snakes lurking in the shadows. One took my life in my past existence, and now the other's trying to force me into this deadly corpse retrieval. I raised my eyes, took a deep breath, and steadied my voice. Fine, I get it. But I'll need proper equipment, otherwise I won't survive the dive myself, let alone bring him back. He marched me out through the cabin door. We were indeed on a yacht, its deck cluttered with over a dozen oxygen tanks and various diving equipment. Listen kid, this is top-tier professional diving gear. I'm warning you, no funny business. If you don't bring my son up by dawn, or if you try sneaking ashore elsewhere, I'll drown your grandmother alive. And I'll make sure she suffers 10,000 times worse than my boy did. Once day breaks, this place will be swarming with tourists again. Not ideal for our operation, so he didn't dare wait any longer. He pulled out a Swiss Army knife and cut through the plastic restraints binding me. I grabbed the wetsuit and gear at lightning speed and dashed back to the cabin. Fully geared up, I slipped into the water under Mr. Su's ominous gaze. The underwater world was pitch black, with only the occasional swirl of fish brushing past. Having night dived before, the darkness didn't particularly bother me, yet the trauma from my previous life's drowning left lingering fears I couldn't shake. 20. A chill ran through me. The icy water seeped through my wetsuit, biting deeper. My body began trembling uncontrollably again. My breathing quickened, oxygen consumption spiked, and warning alarms blared from the equipment. I've heard this very sound in my past life. It never ceased, not even at life's final moment, but at least now, I still have a chance to fight for survival. With desperate focus, I marshaled my willpower, analyzed the current situation, and strove for the optimal solution. Su's father was driven to madness by the loss of his son. If we sneaked back to shore to escape, Grandma would be in danger. His only demand was to recover his son's remains. In my past life, I'd located Gu Yingtian's corpse and still remember its approximate whereabouts. He's about the same build as Su Haoyu. I'll take him up first to bluff old man Su. While he's distracted by the corpse, I'll seize the moment to call for help. Better odds that way. At this thought, warmth gradually returned to my body and my breathing steadied. I switched on the searchlight and swam toward the cave entrance. That's right, Xinyan. Remember, underwater is actually where you shine. As expected, the steel bars at the entrance had been destroyed. I squeezed through and swam deeper along the tunnel. After navigating a narrow passage, I emerged into an unexpectedly vast cavern. 21. All previous divers had gotten stuck at this exact spot. This place was practically an underwater crossroads. The rock walls surrounding them had 6 or 7 caves, each leading to different areas. It was nearly impossible to tell which passage Gu Yingtian and Su Haoyu had chosen to continue their dive. In my past life, I recognized Gu Yingtian's distinctive marking line precisely at the southeastern cave entrance. It was custom-made, bearing his name exclusively. This time, Without hesitation, I slipped straight through this entrance. The narrow passage led inward, its current notably swifter here, drifting downstream past several forks in the river. I soon approached the narrow stretch where Gu Yingtian's corpse had been lodged in my memory, but when I reached the exact spot, I made a startling discovery. Gu Yingtian's remains were nowhere to be found. Perhaps after the fish had picked his bones clean, the current carried his skeleton further downstream. Fortunately, Mr. Su's oxygen tank had ample capacity and wasn't heavily depleted. I decided to press onward, venturing deeper into the cave. 22. The current grew stronger as we progressed further inward. The swift current immediately carried me toward the cavern's depths. The surroundings gradually widened, with jagged stalactites lining the path and massive black catfish patrolling the waters, adding an eerie, unsettling atmosphere to the journey. As I swam onward, I suddenly realized my head had broken the water's surface. The dramatic elevation changes and expansive cavern had formed an air pocket with an underground river flowing through it. My heart leaped with quiet excitement. Perhaps this subterranean river led to another exit above ground. If I can make it back to the surface from there, I'll call the police immediately to rescue Grandma. But at that moment, I was completely carried away by my own wishful thinking, completely overlooking another possibility. The underground river's current grew shallower, with flat ground emerging along its banks. I simply climbed ashore, unloaded 2 spare air tanks and temporarily unnecessary gear, stashing them in a recessed cave alcove by the cliffside, keeping the remaining tanks strapped to my back in case the cavern ahead remained fully submerged. 23. Pressing forward, just before a sharp bend in the tunnel, I suddenly caught faint sounds echoing through the darkness, the unmistakable cadence of human footsteps, tap tap tap, reverberating through the cavern's inky depths. Every hair on my body stood on end as I hastily switched off the spotlight and crouched in the dark corner. A startled bat flapped its wings wildly, letting out eerie screeches as it took flight. I clenched my jaw tightly, terrified that my fear might betray my hiding spot, yet the increasingly rapid footsteps kept drawing nearer. Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed in my ears. "Brother, how you? Is that a ghost?" I'm so scared. Are we going to die? Did King Yama send the Black Impermanence to claim our souls? Let's not go any further. Don't be afraid, Lin Lin. Maybe someone's coming to rescue us. We should check it out. Su Haoyu and Gu Linlin were getting closer to me. The corridor wasn't wide. When he turned the corner, he'd inevitably bump into me crouching there. So I kicked on the floodlight at my feet precisely 1 second before his turn. 24. The first thing they saw upon turning was my ghostly pale face, illuminated from below with a sinister grin. Both men nearly jumped out of their skins. "Ah, a ghost." I bared my teeth in a creepy grin. "Hee hee, it's me, Xinyang." Their panic instantly turned into wild joy. "Xinyang, I knew you'd come rescue me. Lin Lin, we're finally getting out of here alive." "Alive? You sure about that?" "Not necessarily. From the moment I recognized their voices until now." 25. My mind has been racing through countless thoughts. At first, I was shocked they were both still alive. Then came bitter resentment. Why did those scumbags survive when karma clearly failed? But now, clarity washes over me, tinged with quiet satisfaction. Because I remembered what Su's father had said, "If you don't bring back my son's corpse, I'll bury you and your grandmother alive with him." What he demanded was nothing less than a corpse, just like my former self. Cold, mutilated, incapable of ever feeling joy or sorrow again, a lifeless shell devoid of human warmth. Then what I should bring back is a corpse, not those messy things belonging to other living people. It suddenly dawned on me that letting them live this long might be fate giving me a chance to take revenge with my own hands. This place has ample oxygen and fresh water. The two of them survived by catching giant catfish in this underground river. Aside from the monotony, surviving here for a year or two wouldn't be an issue. 26. Shockingly, those shameless lovers even had energy for some intimate diversions. After 6 or 7 days in darkness, their perception of light had become distorted. Su Haoyu passionately recounted how his longing for me had kept him going. Little did he know I could see his other hand secretly intertwined with Gu Linlin's behind his back. Meanwhile, Gu Linlin stared vacantly in my direction, a triumphant, taunting smirk curled at the corners of his lips. I cut Su Haoyu off abruptly. "Enough talk. I've only got 1 spare oxygen tank left, just enough for 1 person to make it out. The other stays put until the next rescue team arrives. You two decide who goes first." Gu Linlin stamped her foot coquettishly. "Why should we? Just hand over your oxygen tank. Haoyu and I can leave first. We're suffocating here. We're going first. You haven't suffered like us, so waiting a bit longer won't kill you." 27. With a sharp crack, I delivered a stinging slap across their face. Shut your mouth. Who gave you the right to speak? Ask your precious Hao. Does he even know the way? Could he actually get you out of here? If he had half my skills, you wouldn't have been trapped here this long. Gu Linlin's face flushed crimson with rage. Clutching her cheek, she shot Su Haoyu a wounded glance before bursting into muffled sobs. Su Haoyu's face darkened again as he furrowed his brows. Xinyang, you could have just explained things properly to Linlin. Was hitting her really necessary? Fine, just take Linlin and leave first. I'll wait here for the next rescue team. Happy now. Women and their petty jealousy. What's there to be jealous about? I shrugged indifferently. Su Haoyu helped Gu Linlin gear up before heading out. Gu Linlin grabbed me as I led the way. Wait up, Xinyang. Come back with us to carry my brother. I'm taking him with us. No wonder Gu Yingtian wasn't at that spot from the previous life. Turns out they found his corpse on their way here, brought it up, and placed it deep inside the cave. No surprise this cave reeks of rotting decay. 28. I was stunned. You're practically drowning impaired. How'd you manage to haul your brother up alive? Gu Linlin looked even more shocked. What are you talking about? Of course you're taking him with you. Just tie him to your body with a rope. Me. Are you out of your mind? Don't you realize how dangerous this is? I don't care. There's no way I'm abandoning my little brother this time. My fists clenched tight, knuckles cracking. Though Su Haoyu couldn't see clearly, he could feel the scorching fury radiating from me. Afraid I'd hit his precious girlfriend again, he heroically shielded Gu Linlin with his body. Xinyang, Linlin just can't let go of her brother. If you hold this against her, you're being downright cruel. I swung both hands simultaneously, delivering 2 stinging slaps across Su Haoyu's face. I suddenly lashed out with another kick, striking right between his legs. Su Haoyu, this idiot tried to kill me. And you think I'm just gonna let it slide? If you lovebirds wanna stay here playing house forever, be my guest, just don't drag me into your bullshit. I turned and strode deeper into the water, ready to dive. Su Haoyu desperately tried to restrain me, but I seized the chance to deliver several brutal kicks to his vulnerable spots. Eventually, the two of them reached an agreement. Su Haoyu would follow me out first, carrying Gu Yingtian's corpse. Once we surfaced, we'd immediately call for help to rescue Gu Linlin. I sat on the rock, waiting for Su Haoyu to gear up. The two kept whispering intimately, with Su Haoyu dramatically swearing to heaven and earth that he'd send help for Gu Linlin immediately. My lips curled into a sardonic smile. Rescue others? He can't even save himself. Swimming upstream proved far more strenuous than the initial journey downstream, clutching at rocks along the cliff face. I painstakingly advanced following the markers I'd left earlier. For Su Haoyu, still dragging a corpse by his feet, the struggle became exponentially worse. Nervous tension, physical exhaustion, and sheer weakness all demanded more oxygen from his burning lungs. 29. Soon we reached a forked cave entrance. After glancing at the markings, I decisively crawled into one of the passages. Su Haoyu followed me without hesitation. He carefully tended to the corpse behind him. Terrified of failing Gu Linlin's assigned task, he kept absent-mindedly stroking the bracelet Gu Linlin had clasped around his wrist, wearing a lovesick expression. The path ahead grew increasingly wide. Perhaps he thought the exit was near. Somehow, I could practically hear him mapping out his rosy future in his mind. After getting back, I'd better marry Xinyang quickly. She's beautiful, wealthy, and even risked her life to rescue me, though I don't feel the same way about her anymore. A principled man like me has no choice but to repay her kindness with my whole life. I know it's unfair to Linlin, but if she weren't so lacking in education and family background, I'd definitely marry her. Oh well, I'll just compensate her more with Xinyang's money after my wedding. On weekdays, I can claim overtime and have some fun with Linlin. As for weekends, I'll devote myself to keeping Xinyang happy. That should prevent her from giving Linlin trouble. Gotta keep both women satisfied. Better hit the gym more often after this. Maybe have Xinyang hire me a personal trainer. Sigh, being a man isn't easy. He stumbled forward in a daze. His head suddenly smacked against the stone wall. After fumbling around, he realized with shock that he'd reached the cave's dead end. There was nowhere left to go. In our previous life, we took a wrong turn on our way back and ended up trapped in this inescapable dead end. My backup oxygen tank was still full, more than enough for me to retrace our steps, but Su Haoyu, carrying the corpse, consumed oxygen at a much higher rate. His tank couldn't sustain him for the return journey. He refused to abandon the body, willing to sacrifice my life just to earn Gu Linlin's admiration and praise. 30. The wheel of fortune turns. It was Su Haoyu who now walked this path of no return, and this time, I'll be his guide to the underworld. Su Haoyu turned to seek me out. only to see me stepping backward while waving him goodbye. Disgusting man, farewell forever. I spat out the breathing tube, slowly mouthing those words. 31, finally flashing a radiant smile. That smile sent chills down his spine, utterly bone-chilling. What does she mean by goodbye? What's she planning? Did she find out about me and Lin? Holy shit, is she really trying to kill me over something this trivial? She's insane. He instinctively tried to lie his way out, only to choke violently on a mouthful of water. Panic made his breathing ragged, rapidly depleting his oxygen supply. Soon enough, the warning alarm from my equipment started blaring. With only a third of his oxygen left, there was no way he could make it back to breathable air. Naturally, he wasn't about to give up. He turned and chased after the beam of my headlamp, desperate to catch me. No, more accurately, he was chasing the oxygen tank I carried, the one that still had enough air left. In my past life, he mercilessly grabbed my ankle like this and yanked me back mid-escape, ignoring my desperate struggles. He savagely ripped away the spare oxygen tank from my back, but this time, luck wasn't on his side. 6 days underground surviving only on raw catfish had left him weak and drained. Guing Tian's corpse drained his stamina twice as fast. He began frantically untying the ropes binding the corpse to him, but it was already too late. While he was preoccupied with the ropes, I easily slipped beyond his reach. Then I stomped hard on the lakebed several times. The silt billowed up like smoke. The murky water made everything invisible, even blocking the searchlight's beam. Through the haze, I could still feel the water currents from his struggling. Who knew a dying man could summon such terrifying strength in his final moments? Visions of past lives flickered through his fading consciousness. So it was me. In our previous incarnation, I caused Xinyang's death. No wonder she loathes me to the marrow. She could have just beaten me bloody to vent her anger. But wishing me dead, that's pure malice. Hey, maybe I'll get reincarnated after death too. Next life I'll make that bitch suffer, seize her fortune, and live like royalty. Go fuck yourself. Reincarnation my ass. Dream on, get lost. That last line came from a divine, thunderous voice echoing down from the heavens. No idea who it was, but damn did it sound glorious. Su Hao Yu died with one last unanswered question. I led him down a fatal detour, taking a much longer route. With my oxygen tank's capacity, there was no way I could have safely resurfaced. Did I really not fear death just to kill him? 32. I swam leisurely in the opposite direction, returned to the underground river. Then retrieved the spare air tank I'd temporarily stored in the cave, along with the underwater scooter Mr. Su had equipped me with. He's quite thoughtful. Worried I couldn't retrieve the body alone, he got me some high-end gear. Hearing the commotion, Gu Linlin rushed out to look. Brother Hao Yu, did you come back to save me? I ignored her and focused on assembling the equipment. Her face fell the moment she saw it was me. Xinyang, why are you the one rescuing me? Where's Hao Yu? Did you take him to the hospital? I replied calmly. No, he's dead. Gu Linlin refused to believe it. She rushed over, grabbing my arm and digging her nails into my flesh deliberately. How dare you curse Hao Yu? He's an expert diver. There's no way he'd drown. You're just trying to upset me, aren't you? Humph. I'll wait right here for him to come get me. I'm not going anywhere with you. Her long nails dug painfully into my skin until I wrenched my arm free with a violent jerk. The momentum sent her flying backward before she crashed hard onto the ground. I'm not lying, he's really dead. The weight of your brother's corpse dragged him under. Ugh, what a horrible way to go. Just thinking about it gives me chills. Gu Linlin sobbed hysterically. No, this wasn't supposed to happen. It's all your fault. If the corpse had been strapped to you, Hao Yu wouldn't have died. You murdered him. Just wait till I get out, I'll have the police arrest you. I turned to her with a grin, baring my teeth in a chilling smile. Ha, Gu Linlin, you're even dumber than I thought. Picking a fight with me in this situation. You've got a death wish. Guess what? Besides me and the dead Su Hao Yu, does anyone else even know you're alive? If nobody knows, who'd even come to save you? With that, he dove sharply downward, engaged the thrusters, and sped away from the scene, even underwater. Her anguished wails of regret echoed through the cavern. I calmly returned to the dead-end alley. I couldn't risk Grandma's safety, so I needed a corpse to turn in. Su Hao Yu was taller and bulkier than Guing Tian, much harder to transport. Besides, Guing Tian was already prepped, just needed to leash him and go. 33. The thruster worked like a charm, got back to the cave entrance effortlessly. I'm getting one of these someday. Back on the boat at dawn's first light. Early risers were already passing by the shore. Old Su leaned anxiously over the gunwale, peering into the lake's depths. Seeing me bring up a corpse, they were absolutely ecstatic and immediately reached out to take it. This time, I surfaced even faster to save time. though my whole body still ached terribly. Thankfully, the propulsion device swiftly carried me to shore. Fighting through excruciating discomfort, I crawled onto the bank and screamed at passers-by, "Call the police, there's a murderer, a murderer." Father Sue was too preoccupied examining the corpse to pay any attention to me. By the time he realized that decomposing body wasn't his son at all, he'd already been surrounded by police. Grandma was quickly rescued, and we were rushed to the hospital. After treatment, everyone was out of danger. However, Sue's father was still arrested on charges of kidnapping and violent coercion, awaiting trial. Upon hearing the news, Sue's mother collapsed unconscious to the ground, completely paralyzed. My forced submersion and near-death experience quickly drew official attention. The cave was reinforced and sealed shut with steel plates. No one could ever get out again, dead or alive. After some rest, I took up diving again. I simply stopped cave diving and focused on open water diving. Later, I rescued living people from underwater and recovered bodies as well. I also actively participated in safety assessments for diving zones at numerous tourist destinations. But I never encountered dangerous situations again, simply because I meticulously adhere to every diving safety protocol, never pushing limits recklessly. Humanity's exploration of nature knows no bounds, but when we disregard laws, act willfully, and defy nature's ways, we inevitably face nature's fierce retaliation. May everyone sincerely live by this simple truth. The end. Story 2. In my past life, I despised him immensely, yet unexpectedly. It was he who claimed my body and avenged me in the end. Upon my rebirth, with tears brimming in my eyes, I extended my arms toward him. "Husband, hold me." His eyes burning red, he grasped my chin tightly. "Say that again, and I'll give you my life." Obediently, I called out again, "Husband." In the next instant, he grabbed a fruit knife from the table and plunged it into his heart. I sat dazed in the hospital, completely stunned. I could never have dreamed that on the first day of my rebirth, my golden thigh would stab himself and end up in the emergency room. The rapid tapping of high heels echoed down the hallway. Before I could even look up, a harsh slap landed on my face. The crisp sound resonated unusually clearly through the empty corridor. The sudden slap turned my head to the side, numbing half of my face instantly. Ching ching. "If anything happens to Lian this time, you'll join him in death." I opened my mouth, the movement pulling at my cheek, causing me to gasp in pain. The woman before me glared fiercely, her high heels clicking as she stood firm in front of the emergency room, touching my swollen cheek. I thought of the emaciated figure from my past life tormented by illness and slightly curled my lips. Such strength indicated she was still in good health. Late at night, the red light outside the emergency room finally went off, and the doctor, supported by others, walked out. The surgery was successful. The knife merely grazed the heart without piercing it. He should wake by tomorrow morning if all goes well tonight. The pale-faced man, eyes tightly shut, was wheeled past me to the intensive care unit. Finally having a moment, Mrs. Fu glanced at me and remarked, "Don't you hurry home and change out of those clothes. They're bad luck." I was still in my home sleepwear, and after several hours, the blood that had splashed on it had dried, leaving dark red stains. As the night grew colder, I shivered and said, "I'll just find something to wear in a bit. Mom, you should go home to rest. I'll stay here tonight." Mrs. Fu seemed surprised when I called her mom, raising an eyebrow. "Really? It rolls off your tongue quite easily, letting you stay here tonight. Can Lian even see tomorrow's sun?" Considering my past foolish actions, I indeed had no credibility with Mrs. Fu. Following her suggestion, I changed my clothes and hurried back to the hospital. Mrs. Fu said little upon my return. Lying down on the bed provided for family members, I climbed onto another bed, resting my head against the headboard and closing my eyes. My dreams were chaotic, a closed door one moment, a raging fire the next, ending with the image of the man covered in blood, his eyes serene yet wild. Startled awake, I took a deep breath to calm my racing heart. After a few breaths, I gently got off the bed and sat on a chair outside the intensive care unit, staring blankly. As the first rays of sunlight filtered through the glass, Fu Lian was moved from the intensive care unit to a regular ward. I washed my face in the restroom, and by the time I returned, Fu Lian was awake, listening to Mrs. Fu prattle on about something. Hearing my approach, his obsidian-like eyes turned to meet mine, filled with an indecipherable emotion. "Ian," I said, quickly walking over to sit by the bed, in front of Mrs. Fu. "I find it really hard to call you husband." Fu Larian's eyes were fixed on me, and he hummed lightly in response. Afterwards, an eerie silence fell over the hospital room. "Mom," he began, his voice hoarse, "you should go back first." His mother glared at him reproachfully and stormed out with the words, "Just wait for her to be the death of you." Once she left, it was just Fularian and me, lost for words. I fiddled with my sleeve and noticed his lips were chapped. I tried to start a conversation. "Husband, are you thirsty? Would you like some water?" I stood up, poured a cup of warm water, and took a cotton swab, carefully dabbing his lips with the water. As I applied the water, I rambled, "The doctor said you can't drink water yet. Just bear with it a little longer. When you can, I'll help you drink." Fularian's gaze stayed on my lips, suddenly asking, "Why did you call emergency services?" He suddenly opened his mouth, almost causing the cotton swab to poke him, startling me. "What?" His tone was mild. "Haven't you always wanted me dead? This time you had your chance. If it weren't for the fact that he was injured, I would have smacked him on the head." "What does he mean, wanting him dead? I'm not a psychopath. Why would I want him dead?" Though I did say that once. It was when he had me locked up and I was speaking out of frustration, and now he's bringing up old grievances. He didn't ask further, slightly turned his head away from my hand, and closed his eyes. "Husband," I put down the cotton swab and glass, sat beside the bed. "I know I've been too much in the past, but I swear I won't be anymore. If I ever treat you like that again, may lightning strike me dead." Before I could finish, a large hand covered my mouth, stopping my words. His movement seemed to strain his wound, his eyebrows furrowing slightly. "I've told you, my life is yours to command." I pulled his hand away, earnestly saying, "I really won't do it again." 3. During the night, I stayed by Fularian's bedside. As the anesthesia wore off, the pain from his wounds covered his forehead with dense sweat. I prepared a basin of water and gently wiped the sweat from his forehead with a damp towel, smoothing his furrowed brows as he slept. I stood up to dispose of the water when suddenly my hand was grasped. Ching-ching. Fularian clutched my hand tightly, his voice full of pain. I sat back down, gripping his hand in return. His palm was broad and rough, completely enveloping mine, holding on so tightly that my fingertips turned white. "Loving me must be painful, huh?" I chuckled self-deprecatingly, utterly foolish, unable to see people clearly, always causing trouble. I wonder what he really likes about me. Do I like him? Maybe I do. After all, there's no one else in this world who would lay down their life for me. But, love, it's hard to call it love. I'll treat him well. Maybe even willing to give my life for him, but I know it's not love, it's just compensation. I pressed his hand against my face, looking at his features in the play of light and shadow, and whispered softly, "Ian, I will try my best to love you," he said, his eyelashes quivering slightly in the night. It must be said, Fularian's recovery ability was remarkably strong, despite a stab wound that was nearly fatal. He was mostly healed in just half a month. Those 2 weeks passed peacefully. I brought a few sets of clothes from home and stayed at the hospital to take care of Fularian. Although I say take care, I wasn't much help really. It was a private hospital, and the doctors and nurses did everything that needed to be done. All I could do was bring water, deliver meals, and keep him company. Fu's mother came to visit a few times, but each time, her cold-faced son sent her away. I figured if this kept up, I might be able to get out for a bit of fresh air soon, back at home. I sat on the sofa and let out a long sigh of relief. Although the hospital beds were soft, nothing beat the comfort of home. Buzz, buzz, the phone on the table vibrated twice, and Fularian and I both looked over. I felt him tense up momentarily, so I leaned over to kiss his chin and, right in front of him, unlocked the phone. The glaring message on the screen nearly gave me a heart attack. Lin, ching-ching. "It's been so long since we last met. I miss you. Let's meet." The breathing of the person next to me hitched, followed by his chest heaving twice. Shoot, I forgot to block him. I quickly and decisively dragged the contact into the blacklist, flipped the phone over, and turned to kiss him. Fularian slightly turned his head, and the kiss meant for his lips landed on his cheek instead. "Why not agree to it?" he asked, his tone light but his fists clenched tightly at his side. Clearly, he didn't want me to go, yet he acted as if it didn't matter to him. If I really went, I probably wouldn't be able to leave the bedroom for a month. How awkward, I sighed, prying open his clenched hand. Fresh pinch marks were clearly visible on his open palm. Seeing the deep imprints, I felt irrationally angry. "Why are you pinching yourself?" I poked at his palm. His hand closed, enveloping mine completely. He looked down, his eyes hiding his emotions, and murmured, "It won't happen again. People say man proposes, God disposes." And it turned out I hadn't expected Lin to actually dare to show up at my doorstep. After having breakfast with Fularian, I went out to water the flowers in the yard. Just as I was about to head back inside, I heard an annoying voice. "Ching-ching, why did you block me?" Are you angry that I haven't contacted you for so many days? I walked forward without turning back, letting his words pass by me like wind. Ching ching. Are you being threatened by Fu Lian? Come out, I'll take you away from him, yelling in front of Fu Lian's house. Was he asking for trouble? If he wanted to die, he shouldn't drag me into it. I turned around emotionlessly and looked at him. Sir, if it's not too much trouble, could you please leave my doorstep? My husband and I are very happy together, so you don't need to worry. Ching ching. Tired of listening to him, I quickly stepped inside. As I opened the door, I froze. The floor inside was covered with broken ceramics, and Fu Lian stood in the center, his hands bloody, his eyes bloodshot. The butler, Uncle Li, immediately came to my side as I entered. Madam, call the doctor. I dropped the command and stepped over the broken ceramics towards Fu Lian. The man who had been raging just moments ago rushed over as my foot almost touched a shard and scooped me up, leaving a trail of blood behind him. Half an hour later, Fu Lian leaned on the sofa, his eyes half closed as the doctor treated the wounds on his feet. The doctor carefully extracted tiny porcelain shards from the flesh using tweezers, each piece pulling down droplets of blood that fell to the floor. The person on the sofa wore a blank expression, not even moving an eyebrow. As if the bloodied feet weren't his. After treating the foot injuries, the doctor turned to clean the less severe wounds on the hands. After a while, the doctor stood up and advised, be careful with your hands and feet in the next few days, try not to exert any force. Uncle Li led the doctor out, leaving only Fu Lian and me alone in the vast living room. The man looked up at me, a hint of red in the corner of his eyes. His voice hoarse. Ching ching. Stay away from him. I sighed, sat beside him, and poked his unharmed forearm, feeling a bit gloomy. Fu Lian, do you trust me? Fu Lian seemed not to hear what I was saying, just staring intently at me as if I might vanish into thin air, stubbornly repeating his words. Ching ching. Stay away from him. He will harm you. I leaned my forehead against his, gently rubbing it, and promised, I won't meet him again. Okay, I won't meet him again, but I will still seek the vengeance I am owed. Whatever debts he owes me from past and present lives, I intend to recover them, with interest. It was strange that Fu Lian, despite his anger that day, didn't confine me or anything. With old wounds unhealed and new ones added, his complexion was much worse. The housekeeper felt sorry for him and made nourishing soups every day, but while he didn't improve much, I ended up getting plumper. After overeating soup and hardly touching dinner, I woke up in the middle of the night starving. After tossing and turning in bed, I finally got up to find something to eat in the kitchen. Opening my door, I faintly heard voices. Tiptoeing to Fu Lian's door, I saw it was slightly ajar, and voices filtered through the gap. Great. Checking my phone, it was 1 a.m, and here he was staying up late despite being ill. I waited outside his door, ready to confront him once he finished his call. Half an hour later, groggy and sleepy, the room finally fell silent. I slapped my face to wake up, stood, and burst through the door. The room was dark, lit only by moonlight streaming through the uncurtained window, casting a faint glow. The figure stood by the window, bathed in soft moonlight, his silhouette hazy. Such a beautiful scene it was. But how could you, with feet full of wounds, stand on the ground? My anger surged instantly. With a snap, I turned on the light, flooding the room with brightness. Then, I got even angrier. Blood-stained bandages were carelessly thrown on the table, and the man, wearing a coat, stood barefoot on the cold floor. Seeing me enter, a rare look of surprise crossed his face. Fu Lian, do you not care about your feet anymore? I yelled at him, running over to drag him back to bed, puffing my cheeks. I stood by the bed glaring at him furiously. The person on the bed reached out with slender fingers, carefully hooking my hand hanging by my side. Ching ching, don't be angry. A strange feeling intensified inside me. Who is Fu Lian? Domineering, crazy, with extreme possessiveness and controlling desires, often forcing confinement in a dark room. Even now, Fu Lian was undeniably mad, but when it comes to himself, he is ruthlessly harsh, never going easy on himself when it comes to self-inflicted harm. Towards me, however, he's incredibly humble. 8. I gently took his hand and knelt in front of him, my voice softening uncontrollably. Honey, please take care of yourself. It hurts me to see you like this. Fu Lian just looked down at our clasped hands, silent. I wasn't going to give up without a response, so I shook his hand coquettishly and pleaded, please. After a while, just when I thought he was going to remain silent again, Fu Lian quietly hummed an affirmation. Hearing his response, I instantly beamed with joy. I stood up, fetched the first aid kit, and came back. Fu Lian sat obediently by the bed like a good child. letting me dress his wounds as I directed. It turned out that bandaging should really be left to the professionals. After much fussing, I ended up wrapping Fu Larian like a mummy. Looking at his hand wrapped up like a bun, I awkwardly smiled. Just bear with it for one night, and we'll have the doctor rewrap it tomorrow. Fu Larian seemed quite satisfied with his freshly minted appearance, examining his bandaged limbs before commenting, "Pretty good, since the victim himself said so." I didn't argue. I put the first aid kit back in its place and prepared to head to my room to rest. Just as I was about to leave, I caught a glimpse of Fu Larian still sitting by the bed. On impulse, I walked back to him. "How about I stay in your room tonight to make sure you don't do anything reckless?" Fu Larian suddenly looked at me, something flickering in his eyes. He clearly wanted me to stay, yet he said, "Don't force yourself. I won't do anything even if you're not here." At that moment, Fu Larian was like a child who desperately wants a candy but insists he doesn't. Maybe these days, my courage had been bolstered by Fu Larian, and I playfully decided to go along with his words, nodding. "Oh, in that case, I'll leave." With that, I turned and headed towards the door. Fu Larian watched me leave without turning back, his eyes dimming instantly, a self-mocking smile playing on his lips. Seeing Fu Larian like this, my heart unexpectedly clenched. I reached the barely closed door, shut it, and winked at him under his puzzled gaze. "All right, get ready to sleep. I'll stay and keep you company." I initially intended to make do with the sofa in the room for the night, but Fu Larian, after getting into bed, consciously made space for me and looked puzzled when I hesitated to join him. "All right." My words might have carried some ambiguity. 9. We were husband and wife after all. Sharing a bed wasn't strange, especially since a sofa is nowhere near as comfortable as a bed. With that thought, I didn't hesitate and climbed into bed, turning off the light to sleep. It was the middle of the night, and after all that fuss, I was quickly enveloped by drowsiness. Within minutes of lying down, my consciousness blurred. In a haze, I felt the person beside me turn over, and a strong, lean arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me closer to him. After that, I lost consciousness. The next day, I woke up gasping for air, convinced I would have suffocated if I had woken just 2 seconds later. I struggled to lift my head from Fu Larian's chest, taking a few deep breaths of fresh air before I felt better. Despite the commotion, Fu Larian didn't wake up. His arm was still around my waist, preventing me from getting up, and the earlier fuss had chased away any sleepiness. I lay there in his arms, staring blankly, until something caught my eye and I fixed my gaze on it. Streams of light filtered through the gaps in the curtains, casting luminous marks on his face that added a touch of sanctity. His eyes were closed, his expression relaxed, a state I had never seen him in before. It seemed as though this was the first time we shared a bed. Initially, when the Lin family's financial chain broke, I was sold to Fu Lian by my parents to secure funds. It was repulsive to even share a meal with him at the same table, let alone sleep in the same bed. I withdrew my hand and poked Fu Lian's cheek. Surprisingly, it felt good, so I couldn't resist poking him a couple more times. His long eyelashes fluttered like butterfly wings, prompting me to stop immediately. Even my breathing lightened. Seeing he didn't wake, I reached out again, this time toying with his eyelashes. As I fiddled, I marveled at how long his eyelashes were. Eventually, the person beside me woke up, his eyes still slightly foggy as he rubbed his forehead against mine before burying his face into my neck. When he looked up again, his gaze had cleared. After breakfast, I had the doctor come over to redress Fu Lian's wounds. This time, I squatted nearby and watched carefully, trying to learn the doctor's technique. While watching, I blurted out, "Should I buy you a wheelchair so you don't have to walk?" Fu Lian, lifting his foot for the doctor to wrap, dismissed my suggestion without even looking up. Given his condition, going to the office was out of the question, but such a large company couldn't just be neglected every day. After the doctor left, Fu Lian went to the study to handle work. Halfway through, I went up to bring him water and saw his hand holding the pen slightly bleeding through the bandage. My mouth worked faster than my brain, blurting out, "Should I help you review the documents?" It was only after speaking that I realized the documents might contain confidential company secrets, not meant for casual viewing. I quickly added, "Your hand." Before I could explain, Fu Lian neatly put down his pen and leaned back in his chair. "All right." Then, things turned into me sitting in the office chair reviewing documents while Fu Lian sat beside watching me. I majored in jewelry design with a minor in business during college. Honestly, I wasn't interested in jewelry design. I had initially chosen to study business for my college application, but my parents altered my choice without my consent, claiming, "Why study business? Jewelry design is so much better. Look at other daughters, all studying design." At that time, I couldn't resist, and the only option was to minor in business at university. Even with some business education, I had never really practiced it, so handling documents was still somewhat uncertain, with each document processed. I had to consult Fu Lian's opinion, though I was the one processing. It was still his intellect at work, though he seemed to enjoy it, even smiling. Gradually, I got the hang of it, no longer needing to consult him for every document, only for those of significant importance. Time quietly passed, and as I laid down the last document, I took a deep breath. Just need your signature on these. Fu Lian handed me a glass of water. You can sign them. I took a sip and replied, hey, I know this much. I don't have the authority, my signature won't count. You do, you gave me shares. Fu Lian's casual remark made me jump up from the office chair. The instigator, Fu Lian, calmly reached for the cup I had placed on the desk and took a sip, his gaze seeming to ask, what's wrong with that? It's very wrong. Okay. I frantically went back and forth with Fu Lian, employing both soft and hard tactics. Through a combination of coercion and enticement, they managed to pry the whole story from him. The share transfer document was tucked within the prenuptial agreement. Before the wedding, my parents presented me with a stack of documents and pressured me into signing them. At that time, having failed to escape, I felt utterly defeated and resigned to my fate, going through the motions like a zombie, doing whatever they asked of me. I didn't even bother to look through the documents they wanted me to sign. I just signed my name directly. As for my parents, they were eager to be rid of me and didn't care that I was signing what was essentially a contract of servitude. So, did these shares just inadvertently end up in my pocket? I was speechless and choked up. Did you take a course in how to be a dominant CEO or something? Clearly, Fu Lian had no idea what how to be a dominant CEO was. Seeing his puzzled expression, I took the time to explain it to him properly. After my explanation, Fu Lian seemed even more confused. This is supposed to be marital shared property. Alright, I give up. This person is so naive. It's hard to believe he grew up in the wealthy elite, in this circle, which marriage isn't bound by a myriad of prenuptial agreements, with each party reluctant to give even a penny more than necessary. Marital shared property, that doesn't exist here, since the shares have already been given to me. I'm not going to make a fuss about giving them back. Let's just say they're temporarily staying with me until he needs them back. I glanced at the time, quickly signed the documents, and pulled Fu Lian downstairs for lunch. 12. After eating and feeling full, I wasn't in the mood for a nap just yet, so I settled on the living room sofa and browsed my phone for a while. Fu Lian sat beside me, reading a book. The time spent lounging always made me feel content. I kicked off my slippers and curled up on the sofa, scrolling through short videos, and eventually, I leaned against Fu Lian's shoulder. Fu Lian just felt a weight on his shoulder, as the person beside him leaned back naturally, using him as a support. I didn't know what he was scrolling through, but his pale, delicate feet tapped rhythmically on the sofa. Fu Lian silently curled the corners of his mouth, suppressing the urge to pull me into his arms, and adjusted his sitting position to make me more comfortable. Take it slow, he told himself. Don't scare her off. One day, she will willingly let him embrace her, never to part again. Suddenly, the weight on his shoulder lightened as I sat up straight, my expression serious as I stared at my phone screen. Genius designer, first interview with the creator of the Pluto necklace. The glaring red text and exaggerated statements instantly caught the eye, with a typical marketing voiceover emphasizing it again through the Bluetooth headphones. Watching the familiar yet unfamiliar necklace displayed in the video loop and the frequently mentioned designer's name, a cold smile formed on my lips. Lin Cha, you're back too. 13. The Pluto was a necklace I had designed in my previous life. Back then, confined by Fu Lian at Mingshui residence. Only a handful of people had seen the design, including the siblings Lin Lin and Lin Cha. From the start, I knew Lin Lin's intentions were not pure, but he was the only one who could help me escape from Fu Lian at that time, so I played along, pretending to be deeply in love with him, even deceiving Fu Lian, and Lin Cha was always by his side, his so-called little sister. I had only intended to use him to escape. So I turned a blind eye to the overly affectionate behavior of this brother and sister duo in front of me. Although they weren't always the sharpest tools in the shed, they indeed did their best to help me escape from Mingshui residence. That night, I took only the half-completed design and resolutely followed them from one abyss into another. To avoid Fu Lian's pursuit, we started moving from one remote area to another, hiding wherever it was secluded. With our limited skills, we managed to stay hidden for over half a month. Initially, Lin Lin and Lin Cha pretended to be nice to me, but their true colors showed as time went by. in the small mountain village, there was only one bedroom in the dilapidated house, which naturally they occupied, leaving me to sleep on a straw mat in the so-called living room. During the night, the noise from the bedroom would often keep me awake. While dealing with them, I secretly planned for the future. Everything went as I expected. But I underestimated the extent of human malice. On the last day of our half-month escape, Lin produced a document and tricked me into signing it. It was a simple property transfer agreement. I signed it without blinking. As I didn't know about the wealth Fu Larian had left me, I thought I was penniless. Why should someone who's barefoot fear losing their shoes? I thought they'd abandon me once they achieved their goal. And then I could find a deserted corner to live my own life, unexpectedly. That night, they unusually gave up the bedroom to me. That night, a huge fire broke out, the room was locked, and my memories from my previous life ended there. After I died, my mind only retained fragmented and vague memories. While I was lost in thought, a pair of strong hands suddenly wrapped around my shoulders from behind, pulling me back so forcefully that I fell into Fu Larian's arms. I immediately sensed that something was off with Fu Larian's mood. His grip on my shoulders was so tight it almost suffocated me. The body behind me was hot and tensed, trembling imperceptibly. At that moment, I didn't care about Lin Cha or Pluto anymore. I threw my phone aside, and with my freed hands, I touched his trembling hands gently. "Honey, what's wrong?" As I spoke, I stroked his hands softly, calming him like one would soothe an agitated cat. There was a long silence behind me. Only his heavy breathing could be heard. I reached for his forearm, patting it gently. After a while, the hands around my shoulders withdrew, and suddenly my chin was lifted. Fu Larian kissed me aggressively, without any finesse, as if he was trying to vent something yet desperately holding back. After the kiss, we both gasped for air. When I recovered from the breathlessness and looked up again, he was already gone. That evening, Fu Larian didn't return to Mingshui residence. He only sent a message telling me to rest early. The butler mentioned that the master was dealing with some difficult work issues and wouldn't come home to rest that night. Lying in bed at night, with my eyes closed in the darkness, I kept replaying the afternoon's events, unable to pinpoint what had triggered Fu Larian's emotional change. My thoughts were chaotic, my mind a mess, tossing and turning in bed, all filled with thoughts of him. Suddenly, I sat up in bed and leaned against the headboard, sighing. After zoning out for a second, a realization dawned on me. Had I fallen in love with Fu Larian, I'd get angry if he were hurt. I'd want to cheer him up if he was unhappy. I couldn't stop thinking about him when he wasn't around. Even when recalling the darkest moments of my past life, they seemed less frightening now. I twirled my fingers, then let go, a slight smile appearing on my lips. To love is no big deal, if heaven has given me a second chance. Do I really have to keep suppressing myself? Wait, Reborn. A spark of realization flashed through my mind. As if the fog was lifting, I was reborn, and so was Lin Cha. Then why couldn't Fu Larian be reborn too? That would explain everything. In this life, his restrained and humble love, and his unusual emotional fluctuations after seeing Pluto. All these abnormalities now made sense. My heart thudded violently, pounding against my chest. I wanted to see him right now. 15. The number you have dialed is currently unavailable. The call was automatically disconnected due to no answer for a long time. I stubbornly dialed again. Dial tone, ching ching. Fu Larian's somewhat hoarse voice came from the other end of the phone. "Honey, I miss you." Half an hour later, Fu Larian returned to Mingshui residence, bringing with him the chill of the late night. Seeing me quietly waiting for him on the living room sofa, Fu Larian's eyes darkened. He walked over in 2 or 3 steps, looking as if he wanted to embrace me. But he didn't. "I'm going to change my clothes." I stopped him as he turned to leave, turned off the living room lights, and we both headed to the upstairs bedroom together. After Fu Larian showered, I was leaning against the headboard waiting for him. After changing his bandage, I lay on the bed and snuggled into his arms, my hand resting on his waist. I could clearly feel his body stiffen for a moment, but he then took the initiative to wrap his arm around my shoulders. "What's wrong?" His large hand stroked my head, comforting me like a child who had been bullied. Clearly, my unusual behavior made him think I had been wronged. I tightened my grip around his waist and buried my face in his chest. "Honey, I won't follow Lin and Lin Cha anymore." Fu Larian's breathing paused for a few seconds. Then he lifted me from his embrace, his eyes red, his voice trembling. "What did you say?" I leaned in to kiss the red corner of his eye, and looked into his eyes firmly. "Honey, I won't make the mistakes of my last life. This life, I will love you properly." After a passionate encounter, I lay in Fu Larian's arms, too tired to even keep my eyes open. Yet I managed to keep them open long enough to admonish him, "You must not do anything illegal. I will reclaim what Lin Lin and Lin Cha owe me." "Okay," I leaned in and muttered, "of course, you'll have to help me if I can't handle it." He chuckled softly and continued to respond, "Okay," satisfied with his answer. I fell into a deep sleep. 16. The next morning at breakfast, I sat opposite Fu Larian, observing him. Why did it feel like after last night, Fu Larian's entire demeanor had changed? Perhaps my gaze was too direct. Fu Larian looked up and gave me an inquiring look. Cough, cough. I averted my gaze, suddenly remembering something, and spoke. "By the way, how's Mom? We make her go for a medical checkup every year." "That's good." After breakfast, I processed Fu Larian's work with unprecedented speed before diving into the study, not emerging until dinner. During this time, Fu Larian didn't ask what I was doing, just brought me water and snacks several times and joined me for a simple lunch in the study. For the next few days, I buried myself in the study, working hard until I finished what I wanted to do. As for what I was doing, after sorting out the emotional issues between my dear husband and me, it was time to deal with the Lin siblings. "Honey," I ran to Fu Larian with a stack of papers, my eyes sparkling. "Can you do me a favor?" 3 days later, the Fu Corporation's jewelry design subsidiary unexpectedly launched a new seasonal design collection without any prior notice. This new item caused a huge stir online, primarily because the newly released necklace not only shared the name Pluto with a design that had recently gone viral online but also bore an extremely similar style. The jewelry company was instantly embroiled in a plagiarism scandal, with a barrage of negative comments online. Lin Cha, another key figure in the incident, posted a private message on social media on the night of the new release, directly accusing the company of copying her personal work. As the controversy continued to ferment, the jewelry company remained silent. Just when the situation seemed to be escalating, the company suddenly announced that a press conference would be held at 9 a.m. the next day, where the designer of the new product would address everyone's questions. "Relax." Backstage, I poked Fu Larian's tightly pursed lips. "I can handle this." As a staff member reminded me it was time to go on stage, I winked at Fu Larian and smiled. Wait for my victorious return. The moment I stepped onto the stage, the glaring flashlights flickered incessantly, and the noise from the audience was overwhelming. "Ladies and gentlemen of the press, good day. I am Lin Qingqing, the designer of this season's product." The crowd stirred again. "Ladies and gentlemen, I know what you are most concerned about is the recent plagiarism incident, and I will explain. Before I do, I'd like you to look at some images." I turned around, and the large screen behind me displayed several detailed images of Pluto. "Now, please look at this next set of images." The screen changed to show another set of images, taken from the same angles as the first. I believe you can all see the differences between the two sets of images, so I need not elaborate further. One set displayed the widely available details of Lin Cha's Pluto, and the other was my design. Previously, looking at Lin Cha's Pluto alone might have been impressive, but when both sets of images were compared side by side, even non-professionals could see that the former's details were abrupt and disjointed. After all, Lin Cha had only seen an unfinished preliminary draft. It goes without saying who originated the design and who plagiarized. Amid the silence, a voice suddenly asked, "How can you prove you're the original creator if you just modified her design?" I smiled slightly. "I will publicly release my design drafts later. And I also hope Lin Cha will do the same. Oh, and," I added, as if it had just occurred to me, the public photos of Lin Cha's Pluto seemed to only show the front view. I wonder if she could show us all angles. After the press conference, the company's official blog immediately released the design drafts and detailed photos of the new product from every angle. As for Lin Cha, she has not said a word online since the press conference, despite numerous comments urging her to release her design drafts and detailed photos from multiple angles. She remained silent, as if she had vanished. At that moment, a prominent industry figure spoke out, directly accusing Lin Cha's design item of clear plagiarism, noting that she had not only copied my Pluto but also other publicly disclosed designs from different designers. From then, Lin Cha's reputation in the design world was utterly ruined. Overnight, the once genius designer fell into the mud, becoming a target of public scorn. As much as people had praised her before, they criticized her even more harshly now. As for Lin, there's even less to say. Before he approached me in his previous life, he had entangled with several wealthy women. All I did was send a copy of the evidence to each of these wealthy women and their husbands. That was enough to deal with him. In the middle of the night, lying in Fu Larian's arms, I received a call from Lin Cha. On the phone, she screamed heartbreakingly, Lin Qingqing, you only rely on men, without Fu Larian, you are nothing. Why do you even compare to me? This lady might be seriously ill. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her and just hung up the phone. Please, if someone is willing to help, why should I struggle alone and get hurt? That would be foolish. The plagiarism incident was perfectly resolved. There were even some unexpected delights. Following this incident, the Fu Corporation's stock rose by several percentage points. I even gained a small group of fans, many of whom were willing to pay a high price for me to design jewelry for them. After completing another order, I grabbed my bank card and excitedly ran over to Fu Lian, slapping the card against his chest with authority. I'm officially a little rich lady now. I'll take care of your living expenses from now on. Alright. Fu Lian picked up the card from his chest, holding my hand with a smile. Then you'll have to cover my living expenses for the rest of my life. From the restaurant, the voice of Fu's mother, filled with exasperation, called out, "You two have had enough. Come and eat." Coming. I gripped Fu Lian's hand back, pulling him up, and ran towards where Fu's mother was. Story 2. On the day I married Shenbai, his first love committed suicide by jumping off a building. On our wedding night, my husband held the body of that woman and wept until his voice was hoarse. He said, "Ying, if it weren't for your relentless pressure, how could she have died?" Afterward, on every anniversary of our marriage, he would dress in a black suit and visit her grave. "He killed my cat and forced me to have an abortion." He said, "Furong is dead. How can you smile so happily? You must live the rest of your life in repentance." When I opened my eyes again, I was back in my college days, before Furong had died, and before I had married him. There was still time. This time, I would let him and Furong be together, inseparably locked forever. In May, the air, no longer mild with spring, carried a hint of scorching heat. The sun shone brilliantly. I watched Shenbai running around the basketball court, sweating profusely. It was only after the game ended that I realized I had been reborn, back in my college days. Next would be the classic scene where Furong brings Shenbai water, but this time, I smashed her water bottle. My thoughts echoed slowly in my mind. In my previous life, just as Shenbai was finishing his game, I excitedly ran to the supermarket to buy his favorite drink and water for his teammates. After paying, I realized that Furong, who had planned to come with me, was nowhere to be found. I didn't think much of it, assuming she was busy with something. I sent her a message and then carried the heavy mineral water towards the basketball court. As I approached, I could hear the cheers. I quickened my pace, but when I reached the court, I saw everyone surrounding Shenbai. In his hand, he held a cup adorned with Peppa Pig. It was unmistakably Furong's cup, and there he was, unabashedly opening it and taking a drink. Shenbai and I grew up together, and since we were little, our elders joked about betrothing us. From the age of 7 or 8, he liked to call me little wife, always making me blush. So, I knew Shenbai was a germaphobe. We often studied together in high school, and once I accidentally drank from his cup, although he didn't say anything. His normally calm brow was deeply furrowed. Later, I saw the cup I drank from discarded in the trash. Since then, I knew he had a strong aversion to germs, just like his mother. Seeing Shenbai drink from Furong's cup made me realize they had been hiding a deeper connection from me. Had they exchanged bodily fluids? Was that why he no longer physically recoiled from her? In an instant, I felt nauseated. Meanwhile, I also remembered, I'm not sure when it started, but Shenbai always includes a mango-flavored milk tea whenever he buys some for me. I'm allergic to mangoes, and Mu Furong likes mango flavor. Whenever he gives me a gift, Mu Furong inevitably receives the same. In a past life, I raised the issue, but he just smiled and said, "Ying, she's your best friend and she's not well treated at home. If we don't treat her well, who will?" It seemed reasonable. In my past life, my thinking was simple, never questioning deeper motives. Even before this basketball game, it never crossed my mind that Shenbai might like Mu Furong. After all, he had promised me early on that he would marry no one but me. 2. In kindergarten, he always saved his share of candies for me. In elementary school, if other kids pulled my hair, he would pull me behind him and fight them, 1 against 5, covered in bruises. He would say that he was a man and it was his duty to protect me. During our middle school years, amidst the throes of young love, while other students avoided relationships, fearing a bad reputation for puppy love, he would buy me soda, catch cicadas for me, and pick flowers. He once told me privately, "Ying, we are meant to be together, so it's okay for us to be closer than others at this time." I laughed, feeling a bashful flutter in my heart, my smile sweet and tender. In high school, amidst the rigors of academia, we became the brightest spots in each other's lives. To be with him, I gave up my strengths and chose science. Pushing myself to the limit with endless studying, my efforts paid off, and we ended up at the same university. From then on, we were inseparable, the envy of others. So, in a past life, when I discovered his secret dealings with Mu Furong, I couldn't hold back. I rushed forward and smashed Mu Furong's water cup to the ground. He froze for a moment, probably feeling that I had embarrassed him in front of everyone. He shoved me hard, by a twist of fate. I stumbled backwards, tripped over a rock and fell, sprawling ungainly on the ground. It was quite undignified. The surrounding students mocked me loudly. He acted as if he hadn't seen me fall. Bending down to pick up the pink water cup, I landed hard on the concrete, the pain bringing tears to my eyes. Struggling to get up, I noticed blood on my palm from scraping it on the ground. Beside me, Mu Furong, seeing me rise, quickly started with a plaintive tone, "Ying, don't be mad. I just saw that big brother Shen was sweating a lot under the sun, and I was worried he might get dehydrated." Her voice trailed off as she looked down, twisting her fingers. Tears streaked down her pale face, truly a sight that evoked pity. As she spoke, she reached out to pull me in. I shrugged off her hand, and she hurriedly retreated to Shenbai's side. "Big brother Shen, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have offered you my water bottle. I saw you sweating a lot. I'm sorry." She continued to apologize. "Please don't be angry with Sister Ying. It's all my fault. I didn't think it through." Shenbai remained cold-faced, relentlessly insisting that I apologize to Mu Furong, accusing me of being unreasonable. He even questioned me. "What's wrong with taking a sip from someone else's water bottle? Do you want me to die of thirst?" "Ying, I really didn't know you were so petty. Furong is your friend. Your best friend. Can't you be more accommodating? When we get married in the future, will you be intolerant even of a female mosquito near me?" His buddies laughed exaggeratedly at this. Someone even joked that my jealousy stemmed from my deep care for Shenbai. "Lucky you, brother Shen." Everyone was teasing and making a fuss. That day, I turned and walked away, crying all afternoon. Later, he came to coax me, his eyes reddening as he saw the injury on my hand. "Ying, I'm sorry, I had just come off the basketball court and was really thirsty." When I saw her offering the water, I couldn't help myself. "I didn't realize how much it mattered to you. It's all my fault. But Furong is your best friend. You guys share a dorm room. I only see her as a little sister, nothing more. I was worried you might accidentally trigger her condition. I got a bit anxious and pushed you. Please don't be mad." That evening, he took me out for dinner and bought me gifts, looking at me with eyes as tender as one would look at a beloved dog. "Yes, Mu Furong has depression. She said she felt suffocated at home, that whatever she did was wrong. She comes from a family that greatly favors males over females, where her brother is treated like a king, and even her grandmother won't let her sit at the table to eat. She could only eat what her brother left behind." Mu Furong told us, "I really can't stand my brother. He spits in the food while eating, and I can only eat what he leaves behind. If I don't eat, I go hungry. I feel nauseous with every bite." At that time, everyone in our dorm felt sympathetic and comforted her. Considering her depression, we all tended to give in to her. 3. "Hey, aren't you going to buy some water?" Mu Furong's voice brought me back to the present, in a past life. She used the excuse of me going to buy water to hurriedly bring water to Shenbai, blatantly challenging me. I glanced at the Peppa Pig water bottle she hugged in her arms and said with a smile, "Why buy water when you've already brought some?" It must have been my meaningful smile that, for a moment, left her somewhat flustered. I stood up and ran towards the school's convenience store. Perhaps Mu Furong thought I was going to buy water. Yes, I did go to buy water, but I only bought one bottle. Twisting off the cap, I gulped down several mouthfuls. Under the blazing sun, I felt like I was turning into dried salted fish, and I didn't even like basketball. Well, apart from the earth, I'm not really into any other ball games. I took out my phone and called my mom. After exchanging a few pleasantries, I got to the main topic. "Mom, let me tell you a secret. Shenbai is dating someone now. Ha ha ha," I said cheerfully over the phone. On the other end, my mom was clearly taken aback. After a pause, she asked me, "Ying, what's going on? Aren't you and Shenbai in a relationship?" "Mom, how could you misunderstand?" I hurriedly explained. "Shenbai and I just grew up together. If you must blame someone, blame yourselves for always teasing us since we were kids. But really, all there is between him and me is that we grew up together, perhaps a bit closer than others." "Mom, think about it. We grew up peeing and playing in the mud together. How could we possibly date?" I deliberately laughed lightheartedly and added, "Let me tell you, the aloof, handsome guy at our school is really good looking. I'll try my best to win him over." "Oh, but let's not talk about me. Let's talk about Shenbai." My mom was clearly confused, and after a long while, she finally said, "All right, Let's talk about Shinbai. What's going on with him? Is he really dating someone? Yes, he is even sharing a water cup with a girl. But that's not the point, the main thing is, he managed to get a girlfriend and didn't even treat us to a meal. Can you believe that? My mom, speaking earnestly, said, that's too much. Then, she asked about the aloof, handsome guy at school. I told her I was working on it. After chatting for over 10 minutes, just as I was about to hang up, my mom suddenly asked me, Ying, give me a straight answer. You and Shinbai, are you really not dating? Mom, it could be anyone but him, I said decisively, on the other end. My mom seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. I too, exhaled deeply as I hung up the phone. In my previous life, I was naive and unaware of our family business matters, but in this life, I know it's a critical point. The Shin family is facing major financial issues and is seeking financing. If the financing fails, the Shin family will face the risk of bankruptcy. In my previous life, my family invested in theirs because Uncle Shin told my mom, your Ying's heart is entirely with my boy. And sooner or later, we will be one family. In this life, I made it clear to my mom that I do not love Shinbai. We will not get involved with the Shin family's business. Letting go of Shinbai feels really good. When you no longer love someone, that sense of relief and joy truly promotes mental and physical health. In my previous life, I suffered from depression under Shinbai's emotional abuse, eventually succumbing to breast cancer. In this life, for the sake of my own health, I should love myself a bit more. I was drinking a beverage as I walked to the court and, sure enough, there was Shinbai, tilting his head back, drinking from a Peppa Pig cup, gulping loudly in the sun as his Adam's apple bobbed. Seeing me, he hurriedly stopped drinking and walked over. Ying, where have you been? He asked with a smile. By the way, did you buy water for our teammates? I shrugged and smiled. Not yet. The supermarket is just over there, only a few steps away. While talking, my gaze fell on the water cup in his hand. He seemed to notice something and hastily handed the cup to Mu Furong. Mu Furong took the cup, a barely noticeable look of disappointment in her eyes. Then she spoke softly, Ying, I think Shinbai was just too thirsty, so I let him use my cup for a bit. Don't get the wrong idea. I pretended to be confused. What wrong idea? Oh, I asked with a grin. Furong, you wouldn't happen to like Shinbai, do you? Mu Furong's face turned pale, and she fidgeted with the hem of her shirt. A flash of panic also crossed Shinbai's eyes. I covered my mouth, chuckling. What's this? College is a paradise for romance. Furong, if you like Shinbai, just admit it. Are you afraid of treating us to a meal to make it official? Shinbai suddenly snapped. Enough, Ying, there's a limit to joking. I sneered, thinking to myself about their deceit. Shinbai and his team won the game, and they had a barbecue dinner that night. He invited me, but I didn't go. Mu Furong went. She came back late, her face flushed from drinking, incessantly talking about Shinbai. I pretended not to hear. Before I knew it, it was the beginning of the month, and it was just me and Mu Furong in the dorm. She suddenly asked me, Ying, hasn't your mom sent you your living allowance for this month yet? I nodded and hummed an affirmation, ready to continue studying my vocabulary. Mu Furong said, then, can you give me my living allowance? I almost burst out laughing and teased her. Furong, you should be asking your mom for living expenses. Why come to me? In our previous life, Mu Furong would often cry miserably in our dorm, complaining that her mother favored boys over girls and wouldn't give her living expenses. She also mentioned that she was an adult attending university and should be self-sufficient, suggesting she should get a part-time job. Being a child who grew up spoiled, how could I understand these struggles? Out of righteous indignation, I would take 3,000 out of my monthly allowance of over 10,000 to support her. Unexpectedly, my support led her to feel entitled to ask me for money. I had already thought of a countermeasure and smiled. Classmate Mu, that's not right. Initially, I helped you because I could afford it, and because we shared a dormitory. Supporting you was out of friendship. Not supporting you is my right. After all, my family isn't running a charity. Now, I've fallen for a guy. I pretended to be infatuated, holding my cheeks in my hands and looking sorrowfully dreamy at a 45-degree angle. I want to save some money to buy him a gift and then confess my feelings, I said. Mu Furong was planning to act pitiful and ask for support, but after hearing what I said, she was utterly shocked, her mouth wide open enough to fit an ostrich egg. It took her a long while to stutter. Ying, aren't you and Shinbai a couple? How can you confess to someone else? I laughed. It turned out she knew that Shinbai and I were supposedly in a relationship. I deliberately said, Classmate Mu, you must be mistaken. Shinbai and I just grew up together, and it was our elders who joked about us being a couple. How does that make us a couple? if anything, blame Shinbai for having no sense of boundaries, which caused no boys to pursue me in university. I think I should keep some distance from him in the future. Look, I didn't even go out to dinner with him after he won his last match. With that, I threw my arms open dramatically and exclaimed, "Sweet love, here I come." Initially, Mufurong looked upset, but then she burst into laughter. Seemingly overjoyed, she probably thought that without me in the picture, Shinbai was all hers, and she could marry into a wealthy family. That afternoon, Shinbai called me to meet at the school's cafe. I went, ready to clear things up. After sitting down at the cafe, he got straight to the point and asked me, "Ying, what are you trying to do?" "What?" I feigned ignorance and asked, "Shinbai, just say what you need to say. We've been together for so long. And now you suddenly go silent. You tell me you want to date a guy, that you like someone else." His voice rose sharply. This caused many in the cafe to look our way, gearing up to catch the latest gossip. With a calm smile, I responded, "Shinbai, when have we ever been in love? Just because our elders joked about it a few times, or because we've known each other since we were kids, you thought it was love?" He suddenly stood up, pointing at me, and said, "Ying, you're just a flirtatious woman. I've loved you wholeheartedly, pampered you, since we were kids. I picked flowers and caught cicadas for you, fought for you, helped you with your studies, and now that we're in college, you just plan to erase all that." He was extremely agitated, even shouting, "Classmates, won't you judge this for yourselves?" The cafe, being on campus, was quite crowded. I stood up and from my bag, I took out a few items and threw them on the table. "Shinbai, don't act like you're so devoted. What about the time you and Mu Furong were in a hotel room exchanging intimacies? Why don't you mention that? If we were really dating, would that not be considered cheating?" I thought, since we all grew up together, I could forgive you for not liking me and liking another girl. So, what now? Am I the flirtatious one? Can't control your own desires, slept with another woman, and you have the audacity to call me flirtatious? While speaking, I threw a stack of indecent photos onto the table and the floor. Grabbing my bag, I turned and walked away. After I was reborn, I immediately hired a paparazzo to keep an eye on Shinbai and Mu Furong, obtaining photos of them together. In fact, these were not intended for Shinbai. After all, he's not married, nor is she. His cheating is his own business. I just need to be clear about it. Not blinded by love like in my previous life. I needed solid evidence to quietly show my parents, to let them know that there's no future between me and Shinbai. No matter what the Shin family says, they should not invest in them. This time, I definitely won't let Shinbai use the family company to bind me for life, nor will I allow him to qualify as the CEO of the group. By evening, the whole school was abuzz with the gossip about Shinbai from the finance department, playing two sides. Hey, did you guys hear? Yes, from your finance department, really good at scheming. Hooking up with another girl while still blaming his childhood friend and girlfriend for fancying someone else. Wow, that's explosive. I dug it up. The affair is with someone named Mu Furong, who's even in the same dorm as his childhood friend. You like Shinbai, and I have no objections to your relationship. But that doesn't stop me from despising you deep down. I don't want to see you. Strawberry Roll quickly pulled me aside and said, "Ying, let's go. Don't mind her." Mu Furong's eyes reddened. On the verge of tears, she loudly said, "You all just favor the rich and despise the poor. Seeing my family has no money, you all fawn over Ying." Iris glared at her fiercely and said aloud, "You're broke and still you managed to steal someone's boyfriend." With that, she turned and walked away. In fact, after the affair between Mu Furong and Shinbai was exposed, they openly became a couple. It's unclear what set Mu Furong off. She started to pick fights with Shinbai, demanding this and that, always comparing herself to me. She scoffed at clothes worth a couple of $100 for being downmarket, despised non-branded bags as being unsuitable to carry, and criticized jewelry bought from Taobao as trash. She wanted clothes worth thousands, bags worth tens of thousands, and jewelry made of gold, jade, and pearls. Shinbai had a decent amount of pocket money, but he often needed it to entertain his friends lavishly, while it was fine for him to buy small gifts for Mu Furong, spending hundreds, or occasionally over 1,000 yuan. Buying luxury items like tens of thousands worth of bags or gold bracelets was beyond his reach. He began borrowing money from friends and making excuses to ask for more from his family. Initially, the Shin family was unaware of Shinbai and Mu Furong's relationship. The Shin family's finances were in deep trouble, facing the risk of bankruptcy. Shin's father started raising funds everywhere. Naturally, in such situations, close friends and family are the first ones considered. The Shin family had approached my family early on, but my parents, being cautious about business matters, decided to wait and see later, after my mom told my dad about Shinbai and Mufurong's affair. My dad was very annoyed and instead invested in another project. I knew that project. From my past life experiences, it was a real cash cow, so I subtly hinted this to my mom. My parents, being astute, assessed and then invested in this project. After learning this, Shin's father came to our house, inevitably reproaching my parents, accusing them of forgetting past friendships and not helping him out. My dad just smiled ambiguously. Then, Shin's father couldn't help but complain about me. Olji, I know my family's finances are in trouble, facing the risk of bankruptcy, so you're reluctant to invest. But think about it, your Ying's heart is all for my son. The Yi and Shin families, sooner or later, will be one family. What's the use of holding on to your money? Listen to that. Is that something one should say? In other words, it's like saying, your daughter loves my son, and since you only have one daughter, all your assets will eventually belong to my son. Whether you give it sooner or later, you'll have to give it. Why hold on to it? To put it bluntly, it's nothing short of extortion. Upon hearing this, my mother couldn't hold back and scoffed coldly. Old Shin, since when has Ying ever liked your boy? They are just two kids who grew up together and went to school together. Don't you dare tarnish my Ying's reputation, and to top it off, your boy has already been dating someone in school. Oh, and I heard she's mentally ill. Shinbai sure has some peculiar taste. As she spoke, my mother threw a stack of photos she had received from me at Shin's parents. Instantly, the expressions on the faces of the elderly Shin couple changed. The Shin family's financing failed, their bank loan was due, and they were sued by the bank. Not only were the Shin family's assets frozen, but their real estate was about to be auctioned off by the court as well. Shinbai was unaware of all these events. Mufurong, in her desire to marry Shinbai and now without me as an obstacle, was thus doubling her efforts, gently coaxing him with tender care. This greatly satisfied Shinbai's pride and machismo on a certain level. However, the good times didn't last. Just when Mufurong thought that her relationship with Shinbai was set in stone, Shin's mother found the school and came straight to our dormitory. She slapped Mufurong across the face upon seeing her. Then, Shin's mother grabbed Mufurong's hair and started beating her brutally. I'll beat you to death, you shameless tramp, you little vixen. Shin's mother cursed and yelled. Mufurong was beaten to tears, initially unaware that the fierce old woman was Shinbai's own mother. The situation escalated until the head of the student affairs office had to intervene. It got to the point where we had to call the police. Of course, I also called Shinbai to come over. Only then did Shin's mother stop, and both parties began to mediate. Since we were all from the same dormitory, we went along too. Shin's mother kept insisting that her son and I were the real couple, blaming Mufurong for seducing her precious son like a siren. I couldn't help but scoff internally, blaming Mufurong. Why didn't she blame her son for not being able to keep his pants zipped? In a previous life, she used the same tactic to manipulate me, saying that Mufurong was the one who truly loved her son and would die for him, and me, having won her son's heart, why didn't I cherish him? In that previous life, I was foolishly in love, thinking Shinbai was perfect. The mistake was mine, and Mufurong's, not his. Brains are a good thing, but if you're blinded by love, you might as well not have one. The police asked me what happened. How would I know? So, I said, Shinbai and I grew up together, and when we were kids, our parents used to joke and tease us about each other, but now that we've grown up, he has fallen for Mufurong, and I've fallen for someone else. We have nothing to do with each other. That's common knowledge around our school. Shinbai and Mufurong were in a relationship that had progressed to physical intimacy. When I shared this with the police, they could only try to persuade Shinbai's mother. Unrelenting, Shin's mother caused a scene, demanding that Shinbai break up with Mufurong and apologize to me. She also told me, Ying, Shinbai was just momentarily seduced by that wretched girl. Don't be upset. I smiled and assured her that I was not upset at all. Auntie, I'm actually happy that Shinbai has a girlfriend. Why would I be upset? After the commotion caused by his mother, Shinbai finally realized that his family had gone bankrupt. He was no longer the privileged young master of the Shin family. That wasn't the end of it. Apart from bank loans, his family owed money to private lenders and had unpaid staff wages. Amidst his relationship woes with Mufurong, he had also taken out some online loans to compete with me. He had thought that a mere amount over 100,000 yuan would be easy to handle by causing a stir at home, expecting his normally indulgent mother to bail him out instantly. But now, he was stunned. Like his father, he turned his hopes towards my family, pursuing me with all his might. Candles at the dorm door, daily breakfast deliveries, sending flowers. If it had been anyone else, there would have been fans cheering them on, shouting, "Get together." However, at the girls' dorm, just mentioning Shinbai made everyone take a detour. And it wasn't for no reason. His and Mu Furong's indecent photos had hung on the school's public wall for a long time, just when that scandal had died down. His mother stormed into the school, causing such a scene in the female dormitory that she had to be reported to the police. This gave the school's gossip mongers plenty to talk about. At this point, I, the person involved, wasn't even sure how far the gossip had spread. In any case, I was known as the pitiful one who had been wronged. This morning, Shinbai came again, unable to tolerate it anymore. I threw the rose he handed me onto the ground and exclaimed, "Shinbai, can't you have some shame? You like Mu Furong, why can't you just be with her properly?" Mu Furong is making a scene every day, claiming we bully and humiliate her, even threatening to commit suicide in a red dress and haunt us as a ghost. We're almost driven mad by her antics. And you're shameless. I have my dignity, and I want to pursue other guys. Your behavior is essentially harassment. You know, if you keep this up, I'm calling the police. Shinbai stared at me, his expression complex. I didn't bother with him further and hurried off to class with my roommates. These past few days, it wasn't just Shinbai causing trouble. Mu Furong was too. She said to me, "Ying, since you don't like Shinbai, why can't you let us be? We are truly in love. Please, don't compete with me for Shinbai. I really like him. I love him. I can't live without him." She even knelt at the dormitory entrance with a placard. She asked for my forgiveness. I explained to her several times that I really didn't like Shinbai anymore and had broken up with him. However, she went on to cause several scenes with Shinbai. But after Shinbai became aware of his own family circumstances, he felt a chill run down his spine. To him, I was his only shortcut, so he was determined to win me over at all costs. Even if it meant exploiting his charm. At this time, he absolutely despised Mu Furong. He believed that Mu Furong had ruined his chances. If it weren't for Mu Furong actively seducing him, how could he have lost control and gotten involved with her? These shameless words came directly from Shinbai himself. Every time he explained the situation with Mu Furong, he claimed she seduced him. He even said that it was normal for a 20-year-old man to have needs. He even told me that it was a sign of his healthy physique. If I hadn't been reborn, I couldn't imagine how my childhood friend, my once close playmate, could become so shameless. As the final exams approached, we were all too busy to focus on anything but our studies. Unexpectedly, right after the exams ended, as Strawberry Roll, Little Iris, and I were leaving the exam hall, we heard someone was threatening to commit suicide on the rooftop of the shopping mall across from us. She was even wearing a red dress. Apparently, she couldn't handle being dumped after a romantic relationship. Something felt off, so I hurried with Strawberry Roll and Little Iris towards the mall. It can't be, can it? That foolish woman wouldn't really commit suicide, would she? Strawberry Roll, panting from running, cursed, "I hope not. I don't want to deal with such bad luck." Unfortunately, we did end up facing this tragic event, in both her past and present life. Mu Furong couldn't escape the fate of suicide. She already suffered from mild depression, and after being dumped by Shinbai and scorned by everyone else, she became despondent. Shinbai also constantly provoked and insulted her. Eventually, just like in her past life, she resolutely chose to end her life by jumping off a building. But this time, the person who drove her to desperation was Shinbai, who had loved her deeply in their previous life. When we arrived, her body had already been taken away, and a distraught Shinbai was being questioned by the police. Since it was a suicide, Shinbai was quickly released. However, he fell seriously ill after being released, reportedly due to the shock. After all, seeing Mu Furong in her bright red wedding dress dead before him was understandably shocking. But after recovering from his illness, Shinbai began to talk nonsense. He claimed he was the CEO of Qingye Group, owning billions in assets and several luxury houses. He said he wanted to marry me. He staggered to my front door. Coincidentally, my mother, worried that Mu Furong's death might have shocked me, had just taken me on a trip and we were returning home. Seeing him in his disheveled, almost homeless appearance, she frowned deeply. Ying, I found you at last. You see, I was just down on my luck for a while. I will have money, truly. Do you believe me? No. That's not right. At this point, he shook his head and said, "Marry me, Ying. This time, I will truly cherish you and never let you down." I was really just deceived by Mu Furong. I called security and had him thrown out. Shinbai went mad. To pay for his medical treatments, Shinbai's parents worked everywhere and borrowed money. Life became even harder and more unbearable. Of course, all these had nothing to do with me or my family anymore. A year later, at the business cocktail party of Qingye Group, I ran into Suyi, the aloof school heartthrob who I often jokingly mentioned to my mom, holding a glass of red wine. He smiled with a refined elegance. "Miss Yi, I heard from your aunt that you've admired me for a long time," he said, as he confidently presented his business card QR code on his phone. I felt so awkward I could have dug a castle with my toes. Girls at school who admired him could line up all the way to the Atlantic. Couldn't I just make a casual remark, "Well then, can I admire you, and maybe we add each other as friends," he said cheerily. What happened to the aloof persona? As the party ended and I was heading to the door, Shinbai suddenly burst out, shouting at me, "Ying, it's not like that, it's not like this. How can you fancy someone else? I know you love me, truly love me." As he spoke, reeking and looking like a vagrant, he reached out to embrace me. Because of his beggar-like appearance and the stench he carried, security dragged him away. I walked up to him and just looked at him, and after a long while, I finally said, "Shinbai, this time, Ying, have absolutely nothing to do with you, neither does Qingye Group have anything to do with you. Life without you is truly too joyful. I can live happily every day, and as for you, Mu Furong died because of you, in past and present lifetimes alike. You should spend your life repenting in poverty." He stared at me with his mouth agape. Ignoring him, I turned and walked towards the bright future that awaited me.